Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday night, the 13th of April, episode number 70 of So What's Been Happening. This one's a really exciting one. We move our attention across to the art world again tonight, which is fantastic. We haven't interviewed many artists, but we interviewed a fantastic artist that I came across a little while ago called Keegan Hall. Artist out of the States. It's an incredible pencil artist. Bought a couple of his pieces, just blown away by what he's been able to do to raise money in that space. And most of these pieces all raise money for charities. So that's a fantastic thing. So shout out to Keegan. That was a few episodes ago if you want to check that out. But tonight, enough about me. I've got an exciting half an hour to 40 minutes or so, roughly. We'll see how it rolls with Danielle Weber, an exciting talent. I came across Danielle not that long ago, actually. And it was mainly, what kind of intrigued me initially was I was looking into the world of NFTs, non-fungible tokens, I think we're called. Well, anyway, we'll get it right from Danielle. But here we go with the world of art and just the movement of what's happening with art and life as an artist, most importantly. So let's bring her up, Miss Danielle Weber. G'day, Danielle. How are you?
Hello. Good. How are you? You nailed that. Non-fungible tokens. You got it right.
Yeah, I kind of had a little slip there. I'm thinking, was it tokens in the end?
Yeah. No, you nailed it. 10 out of 10.
It's one of those interesting words, tangible.
Tangible and fungible. Non-fungible, tangible. Yeah, it's really confusing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Good.
An exciting time, mate. Thanks a lot for your time tonight.
Thank you
I really appreciate it.
Love technology, and that brings people together. It's so cool.
It is. Look, just a little bit of background on how we kicked this off is we started during one of the first lockdowns that we had. It was kind of Zoom time for everyone, and everyone was kind of over Zoom. And we were basically going for a walk around the 1K or 1 hour we were allowed to do at that time. And it was a case of reaching out to people and finding out how things were going. And we had a lot of muso friends, art friends, and sports friends. And we were just kind of resonating with just an open chat. We thought we'd go live on Facebook, see who got on. We had other friends jumped on from other parts of the world, and we just literally started talking about life, what was happening in our life, how bad it was in lockdown.
Yeah.
And we just started getting some responses from people about, oh, we feel that way as well. And then we got some muso friends on, we got some art friends on, and we just tried to create a bit of a community to chat to.
Yeah.
And from there, it was really not supposed to go past episode 1 or 2. And as you can see, we're up to episode
number
70.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, it's been a bit of fun for sure.
Yeah, definitely, because it was such a hard time, especially for it was a hard time for everyone, but especially for creatives and musos and artists and things like that. I feel like it was just, it feels like so long ago now, but yeah, it's crazy what especially Melbourne went through. Insane. So yeah, good on you. That's amazing. You're still going strong. I love it.
Yeah, it is. It's been a bit of fun, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, once again, thanks for jumping on. Danielle Weber, maybe just before we really kick you off, I really probably should have started with the little vid that I mentioned first, just about who you are and just a little snapshot of who you are before you tell us what's really happening with you at the moment. So give me 2 seconds.
Cool.
Just a little snippet there, but
so far.
It does show how quickly you can cram a lot of work into a little bit of time. So just tell us a little bit about who Danielle Weber is, and kind of where you've come from, and before we really get into the art side. So just tell us a little bit about what life was growing up. Where did you grow up? And what were you into in your early days?
Yeah, cool. So Melbourne, born and bred. My background, I'm European background, but Aussie through and through. And I grew up a very creative kid, but I was mainly into sports, really. I was always drawing and painting as a kid, but I loved everything sports. So I played girls footy, soccer, touch rugby, aths. I was running. So yeah, very sporty, always hands-on, not so much like a tech-orientated kid, I guess I would say. And grew up in the southeast suburbs of Melbourne. I'm still here now. My studio's in Springvale, so still out that way. And yeah, I guess finishing school, it was I did not think that art as a full-time gig would be something that I could do, and 12 years later I'm still a full-time artist. So yeah, that's a little bit of a rundown on me.
Yeah, that is awesome. So let's flash back to what your first kind of memories of what art was for you, really. It was finger painting for me. That's what I
Yeah,
remember back. We're talking
definitely that
kindergarten.
Tinder. Yeah. Yeah, so that was in the works. I definitely did a lot of finger painting. For me, it was my brother was 2 years older than me, and he would always draw, and so I just sit next to him and copy what he was doing. So that's how it started for me. I just I remember drawing like Tweety and like a whole heap of like cartoons as a kid. I wasn't very like adventurous in a sense that like I couldn't really come up with anything off the top of my head. I'd have to have like a reference to copy. But yeah, it was. And then I loved cooking, so anything in the kitchen, anything hands-on in the garden, in the shed. Like I loved building things as well. Like woodwork was my favorite subject at school as well. So yeah, so early days, like yeah, I'd say 3 years old is when I started sort of drawing and doing like Play-Doh and everything hands-on.
Yep. And then from that, when did paint sort of kick in for you? When did you get your hands dirty, real dirty, so to speak?
Paint, I guess more seriously kicked in 8, 9 years old. I started to do like watercolor paintings, and then transitioned to I did acrylics, and then I tried one oil and sort of like backed out of that. And there was a period of time in my teen years where I didn't paint much at all. So I'd say from like maybe 14 or like 12 or something to 17, 18, I didn't paint too much at all. And then it was like 18 onwards, that was it. I'm turning 30 this year, so 12 years later, I'm like, it's all I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Like around the age 9, watercolor. Like what got you there? How did that come about?
So I think there was people at school, like at primary school, seeing that I could paint, and I think they were sort of saying, "Oh, like your daughters can actually draw and do things. You know, she's good." And I think my mum had actually spoken to someone who said, "Oh, you should get her to try watercolors because she'll get to know." Like I was sort of trying to learn like depth and perspective at that age. So I'd like sit in front of the TV and learn how to like do train lines that like fit, like vanished into the distance and stuff like that. So I think that was just a suggestion, and then like if I go back to watercolors now, I struggle with it. And same if I go back to drawing, I really struggle. So it's like sort of I made those steps, and I've sort of not really looked back too much.
Sure. And then that little gap in the middle, what was that like as a young lady? Just went away and focused on other things. Did you doubt yourself as a talent? Like why that little break?
I just thought that I enjoyed painting like more than other people. I didn't really think of it as a big deal. I was just like, oh yeah, I love doing it. Like I love it, I love art. I love sort of being creative, but I didn't really think, that I was good at it or / could make a career out of it. So I think it was a mixture of that. It was a mixture of like sport was really, I was quite full on with everything sport related. And also I definitely hung around the wrong people for a long period of time. So it was sort of just being, a bit of a menace teenager and hanging out with the right people. So art was probably the last on my list at that point in time.
Yeah. So it wasn't one of those classics, well, you better go and do a uni degree or get a real job, and then you can come back and be
No, I was very much supported from when actually I didn't want to study art, and my family pushed me to study art. So I was very, very fortunate to be supported. Yeah.
That's a great move. So you can thank them forever.
Yes, I do. I thank them every day.
Yeah, that talent, that's for sure. So you're still quite young, there's no doubt, but I think I've mentioned or seen a couple of times that you've really taken your art to a whole new level kind of over the last 10 years. And obviously now completely full-time. How long's that journey been for completely full-time now, but when it's become a you know, the thing you want to just do for the rest of your life now?
Okay, so it's been my sole income for probably 8 years now, I'd say. And look, I'd say like more comfortable income for like the last like 3 years. So it's been a bit of a hell of a journey. So I'd say like 12 years. When I finished school, I went to uni. I did do a double degree, but I did arts and health sciences, and I built up. I was working 2 jobs, and I was painting on the side. And I was studying full time, but I didn't charge my art when I initially started, selling my work. I'd literally just charge for like materials, or, if I calculated, I'd get paid like 50 cents an hour or something for the work that I'd done. And that was a thing for, I'd say, for like 5-6 years. I didn't really get paid much at all for any of the work that I did. And then I sort of started to get busier, and it's like, oh, maybe I need to charge for these pieces. And it was just something that evolved. So really, it's been a long journey to get to where I am now. I think transitioning into murals was something that, you can, I guess it's a bit more profitable, a bit more consistent if you are getting regular mural work. But it's definitely been a solid 10-year slog.
Yeah, that's well, it's great. It's great that it's become that for you. But it's really interesting to hear that. At what point, I speak to a lot of young artists and a lot of friends that are graphic designers and mural artists, and there's a kind of a point where you think, I should be charging for this, or you get the confidence to charge for it. And I think that's the most important part, because you think either your art's either not good enough, or you think, I'll do a few more of these and get the hang of it, or do them for friends, and it's everyone's a favor. Okay. So where was that kind of click moment for you?
The click moment for me was when I was like snowed under with everything that I was doing. I was studying, I was working 2 jobs, and I not that I wasn't enjoying it, but I was sort of getting a bit resentful because I was doing all this stuff, and I was like, what, how long do you do this for free for? So I guess that was probably, 6 or 7 years ago, when I was like, okay, I've got to actually, start charging for my time, and value my time and value my work. I know that, I'm here and I want to be there, but there's it's all relevant within that journey. So, you can start charging a bit lower, and as you sort of develop your skills and I guess your work advances, you can start to charge more. So there was definitely just a point where I got a bit like, okay, I can't do everything, and I'm going to have to start valuing myself a little bit more. Yeah. Definitely a really hard like step to take.
Sure. I've spoken to a young friend of mine recently who's put in, an insane amount of hours into an art piece. And then, someone said to him, well, you should charge by the hour, and your hourly rate is this. So that means this piece is X. And he was horrified by it. He put in 120 hours, and he was going to charge it, $80 an hour. And all of a sudden he's like, I can't sell that. How am I going to sell that piece? So that's always an interesting return on investment, or as far as your time put in, because a lot of people don't value your time as, every hour you put in.
And it's funny, and then when you get like sort of past that stage, and obviously as you develop, that's a challenge at that point. And then now I obviously have to charge more and more and more, and I'm becoming quicker and quicker and quicker. And everyone's like, oh, but you did that so fast. And it's just like, well, just because I'm quicker now doesn't mean I'm going to charge less. Like that's, you're paying for the time over the last 12 years that it's taken me to get this fast. But so it's like you presented with it, but that only took you 2 days. And it's just like, but it took me 12 years to get to me to do it in 2 days. So there's always going to be different challenges that you're presented with. That's for sure.
Yeah, I seem to think that people appreciate it a lot more as other trades, but it comes to the art world and they don't really recognize the skill.
They don't.
And the countless thousands of hours that have gone into these learnings, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the size of the piece sometimes, the piece is small, so that would be less, won't it? And it's like they don't get it. It's actually can be actually harder to do a smaller piece than a big piece, right?
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
It's just so true. Just interested in your thoughts on that, whether you feel the same in that respect.
No, definitely. I face these challenges all the time, and I'm like, I go over and over it in my head, and I'm like, I've had one client in particular that's added 2 extra portraits to a massive scale of work. And then when I said, okay, that's fine, you can, it's gone from 11 to 13 portraits. It's going to be X amount more. And they're like, no, but we don't want to pay that. And it's like, but if you're a builder and you add another level to the house, you pay them. It's a variation. Like you pay for those services. So why is it any different as if I charge a variation for the extra time? Like, I'm not going to work for free for a week. So I don't know when that will change, but there definitely is still a really concerning, I guess, mindset. I really don't know what it is. It's if it's a stigma attached, or if it's like, I do say to, young artists that I mentor, I say, it sounds really horrible, but I'm like, if you can come to terms with the fact and be okay with the fact that no matter who your client is, no matter how successful you are, no matter how busy you are, your client always feels like they're doing you a favor by hiring you. I'm like, you'll be all right. If you've got that mentality, like, you'll be okay. And they're just like, look at me. And I'm like, no, seriously, like, because it's going to be the case no matter where you are in your journey. So I don't know. I still face that regularly, and it baffles me, but I'm getting pretty good at putting my foot down and knowing, I never started this for money, and I was never driven by money. But if people can't value you for your time and your dignity and how you pride, like, how you see yourself in your work and value yourself is worth more than, like, the dollar value. So I said no to that job because I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna actually, not for the monetary side of things, but more just the principle, and like, I want to be able to create for the long term. And if I let people like this, you soak up my energy and my, like, my work, then I'm not going to be able to create for the long term. So I always say that to people. I'm like, just stay true to yourself and your roots, and definitely say no.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and I think you, as an artist, you want to enjoy the final piece and the experience too. The last thing you want is that, I remember that client, he was a real ass, like, but you did the job and it came out great, but you just got a bad stigma attached to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And no matter what kind of portfolio and back history you've got and referrals, you can still just come across some clients you just don't want to deal with. So even at any price sometimes. So
that was a huge job that I walked away from. And I was like, nah, I don't, as you said, you want to finish it and be proud of, like, the journey and be proud of the project as a whole. And that's not just the, what you're getting paid or the execution of the work. Like, it's like, how you've dealt with your client as well. And they're like, as long as they appreciate it at the end. But if there's questions of, that valuing the work in there, then they essentially don't appreciate it. So, yeah.
All right, well, I'm just going to play a little vid that I've titled "Keep Going," and I think you'll probably know the one that as it comes up straight away. Give me 2 seconds.
When you feel like giving up, don't. When you're thinking about giving up, don't. When it look like you ain't gonna make it, keep going. When they tell you you can't,
keep going. I'm so glad you did, and that persistence. Some of these pieces. Well, honestly, I'm not just pumping up your tires. All of these pieces I see here, a lot of them are so different, and it's just I think they're incredible. So, thank you for doing what you do, and you deserve the money. That's absolutely right. So, it's really interesting when you talk to artists, and it's good that you're quite well. You appear to come across as now a confident young lady that can still really now push for the rest of her dream, and that's a great position to be in. I love to hear that you're mentoring young students as well. I think I bet you would have loved to have some of those people surrounding you.
That's essentially why I do, because I, as much as I had so much support around me, but, did I have an artist that I knew made it, or that I could be like, oh, they've done that, I can do that too? Not really. I was sort of just finding my way as I went. And now if I can, give a few tips out that perhaps save them from making a lot of the mistakes that I've made just to find my way, then, that's like, I guess that's my purpose now, is just showing people that you can do it.
Yeah. And just bring up a couple of pictures, this one in particular, when we talk about scale and scale of art and size matters, is it big? What do you find the most fun now for you? Is it the large murals or the piece murals where they fill up a story, or is it location driven? Like, what really makes you tick now?
That's a good question. I think murals definitely, the scale, the challenge, like the logistical challenge, the design element. There's a lot of like moving parts to it, and I feel like I'm a bit of a sucker for punishment. I'm like, oh, let's just see like what challenge I can overcome this time. So definitely that aspect of murals is why I love them. Often I get a lot more caught up on smaller scale. As you said before, they take me a lot longer. I think there's meaning in all the pieces I do, but I feel like some of the canvases that and the collections that I'm bringing out, I've been really able to like tell a story, and I'm a big believer in storytelling through art. So I think they, like, all aspects of my business or my craft, I love for different reasons. Whether or not, I don't know if like murals are pretty brutal on the body, like maybe not the lion, like that's okay, but like some of the bigger ones on buildings and things like that, they can be quite taxing. So I'm not sure. I'm not giving myself a time frame, but if I had to take a random guess, I'd probably say about 10 years on murals, and then I'd just love to see myself in the studio really creating what I want to create. A lot of this time I'm working off references and finding inspiration from other people's journeys, and I'd like to see in the future what I can create, sort of just from literally a blank canvas, and sort of finding my own style. I've done it the other way around.
Yeah,
a lot of people try to find their style. I'm just like, let's just flip it, have fun, paint everything now, and then I know it'll come later.
Yeah, well, that was an interesting point. I've looked through a lot of your art, and that, I think it's great that you haven't got a distinct style, and that it kind of doesn't pigeonhole you into anything,
Exactly.
which is great. And different techniques and variations of on different surfaces as well. But what's your kind of favorite surface to paint on?
As much as brick is really, really hard to paint on, and it's like a pain in the butt, it's I just think some of the the character and the texture that you can get through brick is amazing. So like I'd recently do like a Leonardo DiCaprio Gatsby piece on brick, and that was really cool. And just old brick, I think it's just got so much history. Like some people, when they like knock down like old brick walls, I'm like, what are you doing? Like it's so cool. So I love brick walls.
Yeah, absolutely. And typically that'd be about the only pick I don't have on here at the moment. I do love that one. I watched the little video of it as well, and it's just so awesome to see how those kind of pieces come together.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to just bring up just this combination here. Talk about scale and different surfaces.
What about talent?
Talent? I don't believe in talent.
Yeah, that's pretty big, and it's interesting because you see it as a picture, and it might be a mural. Not so much this one where you can actually see the scale. It's really important to have you obviously in there. But when you see it as a canvas or you see it as a small art print, you think, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then you see the scale of when you've actually done it, and you think, wow, now that's impressive. So do you ever stand back at some of the end of some of your jobs and sit, wow, did I really just do that?
Yeah, all the time. I'm like, holy shit, that's cool. I honestly, like, sometimes I'm like, oh, and then other times I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. So I think I still, like, even today I finished this piece, and it was a canvas piece, and I did it in I did 16 hours yesterday. So I wouldn't say like a day. It was like 2 days in one, and then today, and then Monday night I was working on it as well. But I just stood back and I was like, whoa, I still surprised myself. Like, it's really cool. So yeah, definitely. I think that's the fun part of it, is I can still get joy and like out of every piece that I do.
Yeah, well, the insane part is, as I was referencing, you see it as this size, and you think, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool on the wall, and then you see it on that grand scale,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a whole different story,
Yeah.
So it's great. There's another quick vid here as well. Okay, I think we'll move. I want to move to the world of NFTs, okay, which is a really interesting topic at the moment. And it's interesting that that's how I came across you. So it's one of those different, diverse ways that now art is not just art, but so many different genres now are moving into this space. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play a little vid on what is an NFT, just for the people that don't know, and then we'll talk about how it kind of fitted in your world.
Cool.
What is an NFT? Cryptocurrencies are taking over the world, and now they're making their way into the art world through NFTs. Some of the world's biggest celebrities and artists are entering this space. But what exactly is an NFT? An NFT is a digital asset that can represent things like art, music, videos, or in-game items. They are bought and sold online, generally using cryptocurrencies. NFT holders have the rights to the pieces that they have purchased, which is authenticated by the blockchain. The most popular blockchain is the Ethereum blockchain. Similar to how art is seen as a valuable investment, an NFT is a new version of this. However, unlike real art, the original can't be faked, as NFTs are verified by the blockchain. Many NFT holders value the digital bragging rights more than the actual item itself. This is why you'll see many celebrities have gotten on the wave. To name a few, Kate Moss, Steve Aoki, Mike Tyson, Eminem, and many more. So that's my 1-minute summary of what an NFT is. So make sure you jump in my Discord, and I hope you enjoy the ride.
I got my peaches out in Georgia. Oh yeah, shit. I get my weed from California.
Yes, so the world of NFTs, non-fungible tokens. It's really kind of blown up, hasn't it? Really.
It has.
Just tell us a little bit about what it really means to you now, and what extension that's now done for the world of art, in particular you as an artist.
Definitely. Look, I think it has like blown up in a sense, but it's still such a new space. And I mean, I looked into it this time last year, and initially, I sort of was listening to videos and I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. And then I was like, oh no, I don't get it. And it's taken me a year to really, I was on a call with some developers the other day, and I was like, oh my God, I finally understand everything that they're saying. It's taken me so long. So for me, I looked into it. There was a few massive shifts in a few artists, like Beeple to name one, who sold a piece for 68 million, 69 million or whatever it was. And it wasn't the monetary value, but I was like, what is why are people getting involved in this? What is the difference between me just selling a physical artwork to a client versus minting an artwork on the blockchain? For creatives, it's really just giving control back to them. We've seen musicians, artists, photographers. Essentially, it's taking out that middleman, and it's allowing transparency and control that we haven't really had before. So for me, usually, I'm working, well, not for me, because I've sort of always stood by this, but a lot of artists would go to a gallery, they take 40 or 50%, and they'd sell an original painting. That painting might get moved on, and it's very hard to actually trace who's it's been sold to and what it's been sold for, what's the current value at. For example, when I mint one of my artworks on the blockchain, actually it's all transparent. So you can see who owns it, you can see what it's been sold for, what date, and then basically everything's traceable. Another thing that it's done for me is it's really, it's been a big transition from Web 2 to Web 3, but I feel like a strong point of NFTs and this Web 3 space is that it really forces people to build a community. And it's now allowed me to build a tight-knit community, but I've been able to give back to that community. So I've dropped 2 collections and 2 one-of-one collections, and I've actually bridged the gap between physical and digital, and have minted an NFT, and alongside that have gifted the physical as well. And, you know, most of the time I'd sell my physical and I wouldn't really speak to the client again. And then I've, you know, with my NFTs, I've kept in contact with every owner. The current owners now get a free NFT from the next drop. You know, I'm giving utility out. I've got a Discord. You know, looking into the future, I sort of plan on having events. And yeah, I feel like it's just, it's a really beautiful space to be a part of.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be. It's not something that's going away. Put it that way. It's something that's not. It's not a fad. This thing's going to be here for a long way, and it's just going to keep evolving. I've seen, you know, animated versions that come on special packaging, but almost like a mini iPad that comes with this thing. That's what you buy. Like, there's such cool stuff out there. In honest truth, though, I reckon there's a fair bit of junk out there too that's gone into this space, and so it's going to take some time to kind of filter that, I guess. But I suppose that's no different to like an eBay, where there's junk and then there's gold. It's just about what you're looking for and how you trawl through to find it, I guess.
Exactly. I think it'll take literally 5 to 10 years to sift out all the shit, essentially, excuse my language. But really, like, you know, they're saying that 98, 99% of the projects that are currently, I guess, you know, minting or evolving or have been sold out will not survive.
Yeah. And to talk about just a couple of your NFT pieces, I've got a little vid of arguably one of the most, how would I describe him? It's an interesting topic, Elon Musk. I'll describe him as one of the most influential at the moment in that kind of tech, in that tech space at the moment, and arguably polar diversifying as well. Like he's polar opposite to some people. You either love him or hate him, or you don't listen to him. It's just, this is who he is. But
that's what that whole collection was about.
In this piece.
Been spending on business and spending until I'm dizzy. I do all the smack, need never step or help with none of you killing. You doing a lot of capping, watch when I catch, I'ma whack you in front of the witness. Damn, I knew you were tripping. We could have been superstars. Remember when we were jacking cars? Now it's not safe for you. You switch like a pussy little bit. Damn, I knew you tripping. We could have been superstars. Can't help it, now I'm reminiscing. Remember when we were jacking cars? Now you better keep your distance, cause it's not safe for you. You switch like a pussy little bit. Track hard with the kick, snatch off from the bitch. When I slide, nightlight on.
I love it. It's what a great story in that Iron Man space. Just tell us a little bit about how the concept came about for you.
Yeah, so that was actually my first one that I got all excited about NFTs, and I created this piece in April last year, and then I realized that I had a lot of work to do, and I sort of pulled back the reins and developed a collection. But that collection was called Superheroes and Villains, and essentially what you just said before was spot on. I chose 3 people. It was him, Kate Moss, and Gary Vee, and they're 3 people that people either generally love or hate. And this collection was really about, I guess, stopping people in their tracks when they're like, oh, I don't like that person. And it really was to show people that the perceptions that you have of others comes down to your own limitations. So, you know, either some people see like, oh, that's a superhero or a villain, you know, or they listen to the media and like, oh, I hate them straight away, when really, like, you know, there's some people that I may not love, like what some things that they do, but I'll try and look for a positive, like, okay, yeah, don't like this person, but you know what, they've influenced this person to do this, or, you know, they've inspired, you know, the younger generation, or they've done some charity work. So superheroes and villains, you know, really, you know, you speak about Gary Vee and everyone's like, I hate him, or, you know, I love him. It's just like, well, yeah, okay, he might irritate you on some days, but there's some golden nuggets that you can take out of some of the stuff that he says. So strip yourselves back and just really like it's more so about like my journey and their journey, and sort of like how people, you know, you can do one thing wrong and then sort of that's how people perceive you. But really it is our own limitations as humans.
Yeah, it's interesting when you hear someone like Gary Vee for the first time, you're either ready for Gary or you're not. And if you're not, you're like, oh, that guy's
evacuate.
Yeah. So intense, and he's just telling you how it is, and he's calling me. You know,
stop screaming at me.
calls it how it is. And
Yeah.
99% of the time, he's been 100% accurate.
It's just
when
shit you
that
don't want
sounds-
to hear.
99%. But he's not always been right. But there's so many times he's been bang on, so bang on, you know, years later.
Yeah.
So almost like it's just got this hidden talent that of perceiving what's really going on and happening. So you can't deny that now, you know.
No, he's proved it right. So
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, some of those people, like you said before, if you break down those walls of who you are and are open enough to listen to someone to push you out of the way of your own roadblocks, he's perfect. Like, he's so perfect to listen to. So big shout out to Gary V. We'll see him again. Did you see him in Melbourne?
No, I didn't. I know that he's seen my piece, and that just reminds me, I've got to mint my V friends. Thanks for the reminder. But no, definitely if he comes out again, I will be there.
Yeah, he was awesome, unbelievable to listen to. Just the energy in the room. He's one of those guys, right? Definitely one of those inspirational leaders of our generation. You know, that's really just going, I'll take it from here. You know, so his major vision of one day owning the New York Jets is going to be interesting. Absolutely, I think he will too. So he'll take it over. Yeah. So the amazing part for NFTs for me is it's not just a new area or way of producing art or selling art and getting royalties from art, most importantly, and tracking the history and where things really are, which I think that's a brilliant part, because I don't know, I'm sure you've had the same thing. You'll do a piece and you'll never know whatever happened to it.
No.
Who's got it, whether it even exists anymore, whereas now it's actually trackable and you can get a continuous royalty from that. And
the royalties is such a game changer. Like, it really is. I think, you know, if artists do want to set themselves up for the future, and essentially I just want to be creating, you know, whatever I want to create in 20 years time. And hopefully those royalties allow people to do that.
Yeah, well, it's different, so much more than just a piece, right? You're creating a whole experience now.
You're starting a new business, really. That's essentially what you're doing as a creator. Yeah.
The amazing part about the NFTs is it's a whole different language. Like,
it really is.
How do you even what you say? It's taken you a couple of years to really understand even the language. And there's still words I'm hearing. It's like, what is that?
I know.
Where do I find out about that?
Like, terms and new words and you know, and then, like, you know, I've done my first 2 drops, and then it's like, oh, well, now you need to look at like tokenomics, and you need to look at like making your own smart contracts, and there's just it's endless, and that's the thing, like that's growth, that like it just pushes you to grow and learn, and I'm not a like tech savvy person. Like I mean I got into crypto a few years ago, and that's probably why I've dipped my toes in this so early, but it is so daunting, especially for someone who's like, I don't consider myself very good at any of that, and it's just like, what? Like I've made so many mistakes. I've transferred money into whoop into nowhere. Like, it's just, that's the only way to learn.
Yeah. Like, what advice can you give to kind of a young artist that would be considering looking at this NFT space? Like, where the hell do you start? Where's a good place?
Firstly, you need to be on Twitter. That's probably the best place to be for the NFT space, Web3 space. So I'd be getting on Twitter. I'd be listening to every single podcast you can in every spare minute you have. Like, it's really, you need to, I don't say you need to be an investor, but the best way to learn is probably to buy a few and just figure out how that works, and how, you know, those contract, how signing your way through and everything, and how to connect your MetaMask wallet, you know, how to transfer money safely, security and everything like that. But as an artist, I think you just need to start on Twitter. You need to build a community on Discord. For me, it's been really hard. My audience on Instagram is really, really cold. I've actually lost a fair few followers from it, which I'm so fine. But I know that a lot of people are just sort of in denial about the fact that this is going to stay around. So I think just really like podcasts and videos and just having conversations and like getting on Twitter Spaces and asking dumb questions, like it's just really the way to learn. And I'd say that you do need to do that for a year. Like, you know, I don't know how much time you have in a day, but whenever I paint, I just podcast in and I just listen.
Yeah. Just pick up little snippets here and there. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like hearing it from all angles, from an investor's angle, from a project startup angle, from an artist's angle. You've got so many layers to it, so many different opportunities, and I feel like if you kind of start to understand from every angle, that's how it'll start to make sense, I guess.
Yeah. So when you did that first range and the first big drop and the build up to that, and it was like, okay, let's get this thing going. Did you have any expectations, or were you just totally like free as a bird? Let's get this thing listed.
I was still like nervous because it's something new, and obviously, anything that you put your heart and soul into, you sort of fear the response or the lack of, or the good response it may be. But I had no expectations. Like, still kind of don't. It's still such a new space. So I'm just sort of rolling through and just being like, whatever happens, happens. I'm just learning. My team, they're just like, no, we had expectations. We knew you were going to do well. And I was like, I still don't have expectations. So, I feel like you kind of, when it is new, you kind of got to go in with no expectations. Like, you don't want to be disappointed. You have to just get a feel for your audience and sort of figure out what you want to communicate, why you're there, and sort of stay true to that and why you started in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and the gap between your first drop and now the second, you've done the second?
Done the second. So it was December for the first one, and then it was end of Jan or early Feb for the next one. I think. And then it'll be April 30th for the third one.
Well, it's not far away.
Coming up. Coming in hot. What's the date today? Yeah.
So this was your first drop?
Yep.
Which I love all those pieces. So thank God I didn't get involved with the box.
Dangerous.
Absolutely. But then deciding on a piece is always my challenge. So then the second.
Completely different.
Really cool. Something different, like very different. And is the third one the expectation that you going again with something completely out of the box again? Can you let me in a little bit on that? Or
I can. Third one is different again. Third one will actually be incorporating some animation. So there'll be it'll be a bigger collection as well. So there'll be 121 NFTs up for grabs, and there'll be 11 artworks and 11 unique NFTs of each artwork, basically. So I've hand painted them. They're portraits. It's realism portraits complemented by some animation and some pretty incredible stories as well. So
fantastic, because that's really what art's always been about. That, but now you've got the ability to capture that, whether it be as you create the piece, you can tell a story and you can create it, and they can see that whole back catalogue that no one else gets to see when it's just on the wall. But the great part is, there's just so much more to do. And then you talk animation, you talk about after effects of what you can do and experiences. Like, it's so cool. Such a cool space to be in.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think that's what creators are loving, because they're just people collaborating. It's become a real place for collaboration. So really cool.
Yeah. And one of my biggest loves in basketball, the great Michael Jordan, obviously you've captured a few of those pieces recently.
I got another one coming up too.
Awesome. I just want to show a couple little vids. Just show, once again, scale is one thing. And I don't know how you do it, but you've done it beautifully. Yeah, such an iconic shot of Jordan. And you talk about,
I've done that twice.
For you. Yeah, have you really? That same place?
That many years. So
yeah, cool. And then this one.
Dream that someday I would just fly away, and I always knew I couldn't stay, so
it's great. Did color or black and white? What do you love?
Me?
What do you prefer? Is there a preference?
Black and white, I just feel is timeless and just beautiful how it can communicate so much and being in grayscale. But I do love color. Like I think color still challenges me a lot. And yeah, I don't know if I had to choose, probably grayscale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because of the tonal component. And you talked about creating depth, even as a young kid and doing that. And that's where you really get tested, I reckon, in that grayscale black and white space. If you haven't got that, it's just a blur, isn't it?
It is. I think that's how I learnt and how I continue to learn. Now, when I paint grayscale, I incorporate other colors. Still looks grayscale, but I incorporate other colors. And I think that's how now I'm sort of like, how much more depth can I get in these, two-tone, essentially, pieces. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just, and like, it's just, people think, oh, it's like just grayscale. It's just black and white. But I feel like you can do so much more with it.
Yeah. Speaking of doing so much more to it, and a little bit of pop of color, this one.
Yeah. Love that one.
That's cool.
I love that place.
One of those moments. And to put it with a quote, that's always just tops it off, doesn't it?
Yeah, powerful.
Absolutely. Okay. You've done a few pieces for some famous people too over time. And I think that's kind of super exciting to look back on now, really. We go all the way back to this piece when you're a little youngster. Yeah, that's cool, Arnie. And you also did one. Just tell me a little bit about the Arnie piece you did a while ago that ended up in a very special place.
Oh, in his house. So,
how cool.
Yes. Yeah, so he actually asked me to do a piece for he has like a yearly party at his house, and he asked me to do a piece, and I actually contacted the photographer and did, and I think it raised like nearly 20,000 Australian dollars for his charity. And yeah, I got to fly over to LA with my partner, and we went to a party at his house, and yeah, pretty cool experience, I must say.
Yeah, bit of a pinch me moment.
Oh yeah, like just like being in his house, and walked in and I saw my work on display, and I'm just like, what am I doing here? But yeah, unreal, and just really cool little, I guess, stepping stones in my journey, and good, like I often take when I'm overwhelmed and there's a lot going on. I just have little moments of reflection.
Yeah, they're so important to have those little bits you can grab on when it's all feeling like a little bit too much. Do you have those? Like it's epic to see all this talent on display and all these things, and I'm sure it doesn't always go 100% right for you, and especially every day. How do you find yourself pulling back and say, today's not my day? It's not happening for me, or how do you go about it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like realistically it happens weekly. And that's just something that I've learned to just have lengthy conversations with myself. I think, I've obviously, when I can feel things are getting too much, I know I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. This is how you're feeling. We need to either do something for myself tomorrow, and take a 5 minutes, do some meditation, make sure you go to the gym when things are starting, when I'm perhaps not starting to enjoy the process as much. I know that there's often other things internally that I guess letting work factors get to me. So weekly it happens, and I think it's just all about managing, and you'll notice that as you grow and as you sort of figure out what your coping mechanisms are and how you can handle those things, that something that would bother me a year ago won't even affect me now. So, and that's just constant growth, and I sort of try to approach my highs and lows, at a similar pace in life, and that sort of helps me to I guess level things out and not ride the highs and then come down to a low pretty quick after. So that's a tip, I guess. And I think that's realistic. It's life, if it's not work that's stressing you out, there's generally some other factors that creep on in. And I feel like in business in general, as you would know, you take 20 steps forward, 30 steps backwards, and then you might take a few next steps forward the next day, and then there's another spanner in the works, and you're just putting out fires. So I think as long as you build that resilience and you have, you're aware of your capacity and when you've reached, that limit to step back and look after yourself, I think that's a good thing. Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, that all sounds okay to be able to do that. And when you've got your own space, you're able to distance yourself and move out of the gallery or go and do something else. But what happens when you're on a real time sensitive gig? You've hired all this equipment, you're out in the, I'll show this little vid first, and then we'll talk about if it went wrong, how do you distance yourself? You can't get out of that moment. So you just got to push through, I guess. But let's play this one. Yeah, 4 or 5 stories high. The heights for one, but also you're obviously at a time sensitive. It's a budget. You've got to nail it. I'm sure you just weren't there to just take as long as you want, Danielle.
No.
You're happy with however long it takes.
That's another level of people always ask, oh, you work so hard, and why do you sort of last night, for example, I'm like, I just want to go home. I felt sick, and I was like, I need to finish this piece, and really the only person putting pressure on me is me. But if I don't keep that level of discipline consistent, that when I need it, it's not there. So I think I've just learned that you've got to put your head down when there's pressure on, and I do work well under pressure, and there's the non-negotiables, and those are the sort of situations that you've just got to push through, and perhaps pick up the pieces at the other end of it if there are some to pick up. So the pressure on those jobs, when people are paying thousands of dollars for equipment and everything as well, that's some of the side of things that people maybe don't see or understand. So I'm glad that you highlighted that. But look, that's a part of the fun, and that's, I guess I do work well under pressure. A lot of artists will just be like, don't give me a time frame, I can't work to it. But I'm just kind of like, challenge accepted, let's go.
Risk versus reward, isn't it, in that instance? And a massive reward when you must get down from that final cherry picker, get down and stand back and say, that's it. And just on that, at what point as an artist, when you're doing these murals, when you think that's it, I'm finished now? Because do you still get to a point where it's never, you could always spend more time on it?
It's never done. I have to tell myself to stop. None of my pieces, I'm like, I'm 120% happy. I could always keep going. I make sure I'm happy, but there's always something more that I could do. But if you don't call it, then you never will. So, and often you can do more damage than good.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say, have you got one of those experiences where you've gone and done some extra thing, and you think, oh no, I've just done that. Yeah. Now I've got to do this to the rest of the piece.
Massive cool mural, Freddie Mercury's nose, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go touch it up. Did it. 2 days later, I was still trying to fix up my boo-boos.
Yeah,
literally 2 days. So not worth it.
Yeah, it sure is. And another one of my absolutely loves as a sportsman, picture behind me, Kobe Bryant. I have to show this one.
My room, I sit by myself, talking to the moon, trying to get to you.
Yeah, all I can say to you on that piece is it's so beautifully captured. honestly, that shot.
I get emotional when I watch like that back. Yeah, I literally do. Like I can't like watch that piece. It's weird. And I no, it's good. No, it's good. It's good. It's a good thing. I think I've had pieces that I wanted to paint of him as well, and I've really like struggled to paint him since. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and
that's what art's for. It's supposed to like stop you in your tracks and make you
absolutely so emotive.
Yeah.
And that's as you said, that is the beauty of art in general.
Yeah.
And also, like, everyone has a different love and what they think and what they see in that piece. Even in music, you'll talk to an artist and they'll have a way that song was written, and you've been listening to it for years, and you think that song was about something, and it's nothing about anything to do with that.
100%. Everyone will take something different. Everyone will interpret it differently as well.
Yeah. And the way to capture one of the most awesome, iconic angles of Michael Jordan of all time, and beautifully done there. Just tell us a little bit about that one. Where was that for?
That one was actually for CoinSpot. So yeah, absolute legends to work for, and gave me a lot of freedom on that. And yeah, we just kind of like, metaverse, galaxy, and a bit of like Space Jam vibes, the OG Space Jam. And yeah, like it was just a really cool piece to develop. Like some of the other ones I had like astronauts in there, like I had some pretty fun variations of that. We came up with a bit like a less is more kind of thing. But I was stoked with that. That was really cool.
Yeah, very cool. And just a couple more to touch on before we finish up. One thing I think is really cool as an artist, and if you can ever do it, is the world of collaboration, right? And being able to collaborate with another artist, whether it be in the same space and you're working on the same piece, which can be done many times, or you're looking at something that can be captured and taken off into another form of art. And I think you've done that beautifully in this piece. Yeah, so the Nelson collection. That is so cool to be able to turn that into jewelry. Just tell us a little bit about how that collab came about.
So Alex actually was Alex Tempany. She's amazing. She was actually in a cab, heavily pregnant, on the way home from work a couple of years ago. This probably would have been 3 years ago now. Back when the bushfires happened, I did a charity piece, and I did a piece with like superhero animals, Australian animals, and to celebrate the firefighters and pay tribute to the work that they'd done, and stopped her in her tracks and actually made her look up my work. And then, sort of long story short, she quit her full-time corporate job and pursued jewelry full-time. And we sort of just kept in contact. And then I did this piece for a beautiful client who had lost her sister and her niece in a short period of time. And it was a tribute piece of Lion, and we named him Nelson. And then Alex contacted me, about doing a collaboration of something, that communicated strength and bravery, and loved the lion, not knowing the story behind the lion that I'd actually painted. So yeah, essentially we've worked together on this collaboration, and she's always like, how do you paint things so big? And I'm like, how the hell do you do things so small? And yeah, we've done this beautiful collaboration that just basically wants people to, tell their stories. We've heard some beautiful stories through it. And, I feel an instant warmth when I put him on. And yeah, it's just all about strength and bravery and courage. And lions really depict that. So yeah.
Yeah. And we'll post a link at the bottom of this afterwards of where you can find that collection. It's still available, I'm sure.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Shout out to Alex. She's so talented, so beautiful. And yeah, I admire the leaps that she takes, and I love her work. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And you're 100% right. Large grand scale is one thing. Such micro scale and detail is insane.
You can see, like, it's tiny. It's so little, and you can literally see, like, the line, like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Great to see. And also, as I touched on before, meeting people, talking to people, doing art for people, famous or not famous. Famous helps because that's kind of cool to look back on. But the experience I've got to touch on is The Rock, and everyone knows The Rock, right? But it's not a great quality picture, this one I just brought up, but it doesn't do justice to the piece. But just tell us a little bit about how that came about with The Rock and your relationship of what you've basically got out of it.
Yeah. He saw my work probably 7 years ago now, and I sort of did a piece to say thank you for him, you know, stopping and reaching out to me and I guess acknowledging my work. And I was traveling to America anyway, and I did a piece to say thank you, and I delivered it to him. And you know, we've sort of kept in contact since, and I've done like another mural. And I think he's just to see where he came from and where he is now, but how he's like sort of graciously approached all of his successes and road humps and just how he treats people and yeah, he's just amazing, honestly, and we do still keep in contact, and I'm grateful for his friendship. And yeah, I just, it still blows my mind that happened, and that as someone as highly respected as him, you know, has the time to send me voice messages on Instagram. It's pretty cool. So yeah,
that's really what a humbling kind of moment, you know, for someone that could really take, you know, his time to talk to whoever he wanted to, and he's taken the time to do that to you and give you so much belief, I guess, in your work. And yeah, that's fantastic that you've been able to form a bond and a friendship out of that, and long may it continue. So
I hope so.
and one of the little vids I have here was another person you've done a piece for. I think, have I got the piece here? Yeah, absolutely. Steve Aoki. Yeah, this is really cool. Just this little moment of him unwrapping the piece was kind of cool.
Little bit, roll it up, take a hit, feeling lit, feeling right, 2 a.m. summer night. I don't care, handle the whip, driving drunk, I'm doing my thing, rolling the mid beside and out, living my life, getting our dreams. I'ma do just what I want, looking ahead, no turning back. People told me slow my roll, I'm screaming out, fuck that, I'm screaming out, fuck that, I'm screaming out, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that.
Yeah, it must be cool. How long ago was that? It wasn't too long ago, right?
That was a couple of weeks ago.
Awesome.
That was like, I was like in the middle of a massive mural. And I was like, oh, let's just see how much more I can load up my schedule. And now we got it done. Nice. And he's so lovely. So lovely.
Yeah, that was really,
and just the reaction.
Really cool moments. Yeah, it's one of those cool moments that probably got you out of the little rut you're in. You're off doing something else, and then that makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? When you get something like that someone, it's just had that little wow moment as well, and really appreciate what you've done. So it's so cool to do that. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up about there. We could talk forever about your yeah.
Oh, you're the best. Thank you.
And I'd love to keep in touch with you on talking about upcoming stuff. We can always get you in for a little snippet of how things going, the nervousness around your next NFT drop, and the successes around the end of it, on how it all goes. So we look forward to catching up.
Thank you.
About April 30, you said the drop is.
Yeah, for now. But yeah, you jump in the Discord.
Around then. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll make sure we keep in touch, and we'll post that to a few people and get some love around it, and look forward to hearing the end result.
Thank you so much. You're a legend.
No worries. Look forward to spending some time with you again one day and coming out and checking out your beautiful place.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, right. Sounds great.
Thanks a lot for joining us on So What's Been Happening. See you soon.
See ya.